YouTube, it's your boy Sean Matry here with the complete Shaddoll guide. This is going to tell you how to play Shaddoll in the current meta on every level possible. So if you've never played Shaddoll, you're going to get it. A complete guide from a top 50 global player on Shaddoll. And I'm going to go over exactly what you want to do in every specific matchup possible. So if you just pick this deck up, maybe you're learning the deck, maybe you say, I don't understand how to get into X, Y, and Z because I see a lot of people messing up fields and whatnot. I'm going to help you get there. So first we're going to go over the deck profile. I'm not going to go in depth what every card does because I have a video that already does that. So you're going to click in the video description below and then that will get you there. It also, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and sub. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Yeah. So first, let's go over the deck profile. 1 Beast, 3 Wendy, 1 Shaddoll Hollow, 2 Ariel, 2 Dragon, 1 Squamata, 1 Hedgehog, 380 Changer, 1 Genius, 1 Hound, 1 Chaos, 2 Shaddoll Fusion, 3 Droplet, 2 L, 1 Neff, 1 Rash, 1 Schism, 2 Aeon, 1 Core. Extras, 2 Construct, 2 APK, 1 Unicorn, 1 Goddess, 1 IP, 1 Grabcom, 1 Construct Link. Now, I'm going to go over to you what is absolutely mandatory in this list. You need the Construct Link. Do not play it without it. You'll regret it. 2 Construct, absolutely mandatory. So if you're free to play player, you need 2 of these. As far as APK, you can play 1. You can play 2. Some people play 1 in the Phoenix. I like 2. So I highly recommend you get 2. But if you wanted to play 1 in the Phoenix, you could do that as well. The next thing is 3 Wendy. I feel is mandatory at least 2. Some people play 2. I like 3. I feel like you should definitely play 3 under every circumstance. 2 L Shaddoll is pretty mandatory. There is you going 1 L Shaddoll, 3 Shaddoll Fusion, but I think 2-2 is much better. 1 Shaddoll Schism, 1 Resh. Obviously 2 mandatory cards. And pretty much every other Shaddoll ratio is pretty much mandatory. And I also think Core is mandatory as well. So there's that in a nutshell. Now, if you wanted to, and you wanted to change out the text, and you wanted to run something like the Beer or the Prime Being, you could do that. If you wanted to run DD Crow as an additional help to Despia, you could do that. But I would say be careful with your ratios because you don't want to lose too many light targets in the deck. Otherwise, the deck will start to struggle a bit. So I would definitely recommend if you wanted to beat Despia, that you're very careful with the light targets that you are removing out of the deck. So there's that. And then you can also run a card like Effect Veiler as well, if you want. But again, Veiler not as effective against Despia because they can go into the field spell and then make first Dark Lord and it cannot be targeted. You can negate a Luber, but they can play through that, so you want to be careful with that as well. But yeah, there's that. And then we're going to go ahead and summon out Wendy.
Up here. I summon from my hand.
Equip our Neff, change it to light. Now, very important, if you want to make the IP setup where you banish Resh, you want to make Construct in the EMZ, not in the main monster zone. The reason being is you're going to link it off into Gravity Controller, and it's not going to allow you to do that if you put it in the main.
Here's what I'll do. Fusion summon.
So we're going to trigger all 3.
My monster's effect. I activate my
If you don't have Squamata, just don't trigger Squamata. It's simple as that. Now, in this case, we opened up Wendy, so if we wanted to, we could send Hound, trigger Wendy's effect, and then do that as well. The only downside is we wouldn't be able to normal summon afterwards, but that can be okay as well. There's actually, you could do that as well if you don't want to normal summon and you just want to do that. In this particular case, I probably would do that, and then I could use Squamata to send something else, like a Core. So in this particular hand, what I would do is I would send Core to the graveyard. And then here I could summon out like a Hedgehog. Well, I don't have Hedge in hand. We opened up Schism. If we didn't open up Schism and Hedge was still in the deck, we would just fuse off the Hedgehog instead. But unluckily, we did draw the Hedgehog. If this is in the deck, you could summon Hedge from the deck and then do that as well. And then just search Schism if you didn't have it already. So that could be a play that you could do. Because we do have Schism, if you do hard open Schism, you do want to go for Beast. So if you actually hard open Schism in this situation, definitely go for Beast, which is what I'm going to do right now. And then, with Squamata's effect, here, I could send Hound to flip the beast, and then I could trigger Core in the graveyard to add back Resh.
I activate my continuous trap.
Again, if you don't open up Squamata, you would summon Ariel from the deck. So, I'm going to rephrase this. If you don't open up Squamata, and you don't open up Schism, summon Ariel. If you open Squamata, and you were able to fuse off Wendy Squamata, you could send Core, and you could send... You could send Core, and you could send Hound. And then Hound could flip up whatever you wanted to flip. If you didn't have Schism, you would search Schism with Hedgehog. And if you did have Schism, you can go Beast here. Okay, so here we're going to go ahead and draw 2. Now, at this particular case, we didn't start off with El Shaddoll Fusion. So, in this case, we're not going to have access to that, which is completely okay. So it gives us more variance to discard Shaddoll Dams in hand. If this wasn't Hedgehog, and you did have El Shaddoll Fusion, then you may want to keep it in hand, and then discard, say, like a Shaddoll Fusion instead, if this one of them ended up being El Shaddoll or whatever, or some other tech that you drew into. And to keep El Shaddoll Fusion, it really depends on the certain matchup. Where is El Shaddoll Fusion important to have it? Does it, now your first question may be, where is El Shaddoll Fusion important to have it? Is it important to have in certain other matchups? Because I see boards that end on different Shaddoll spell and traps. Some people end on Resh, some people end on El Shaddoll. And your question probably is, well, what do I end on? And the answer to that is it's matchup dependent. Generally, ending on El Shaddoll Fusion is really, really important in the Speedroid matchup. And some of the other matchups like the Chimera, you want to end on it. The Utopia matchup, it's also extremely important to end on, because in the Utopia matchup, you're going to want to end on El Shaddoll Fusion, because you're going to want to clear the Goddess that's in your EMZ. So when you make Goddess in that matchup, clearing a Utopia Leo Ray, you're going to want to El Shaddoll Fusion to make a construct in defense, so that way they can't OTK you after that move. So that's something very important that you need to understand at all given times, is when to go for one thing versus another. Now, as far as Resh, how important is Resh Shaddoll Incarnation to have? It's not as in this meta. It's more important in the Despia matchup, because that's the one, in the Chimera matchup, because those are the ones that get really, really grindy. So you really would like to have Resh in those situations. However, it is more important to have, like in the Utopia and the Speedroid matchup, you're not really focused on Resh, because you're going to win quickly anyway. In the Speedroid matchup, like I said before, you don't, in the Utopia matchup, you're not as focused on Resh. And I'll talk about what you want to do with those matchups in about a second. So just stay pat with me for about 1 second. We'll get more into the boards once we complete the board, so I don't get too far off track. Alright, so in this case, we'll discard Shaddoll Fusion. And then, in this case, we can just make IP Masquerena. Now remember, we do get an add back here. So actually, I kind of take back what I said before. If we get the add back here, you could discard El Shaddoll in a case like this if you wanted to. Unless you didn't draw like a droplet. If you didn't draw a droplet, then I would get back Core. So like if I didn't draw a third card that I want to set, then I wouldn't discard the El Shaddoll, and I would get probably back Core in a matchup that I feel like it's needed in. So in this case, I'm going to pretend I didn't draw on the droplet, and I'm going to add Core back, and then I'm going to set 3. Now, keep in mind, what does this setup get us, and where is this setup good in? That's the question that may plague your mind. Well, these two, this droplet we didn't draw onto, we're pretending it's something else, right? So if we're pretending droplet's something else, we could use the Core to immediately gain access to making ourselves a Goddess. So Goddess and Resh make Core. Goddess and, excuse me. Goddess is made with Core and Resh in this case. Now, if we did open droplet, we would set that over Core and add back Shaddoll Fusion. That's what I would do in a case like this. Again, I didn't open up a way to get to El Shaddoll, which is a little bit sort of disappointing in this fact. I, could, or if you wanted to, there's also the play that you say, we don't send Core and we send El Shaddoll instead of Core. That's also another play. But Core immediately, you gotta understand, gets you back a spell and trap right away. So you would just be down one less spell and trap if you didn't get core back. So you could send El Shaddoll here if you absolutely wanted to, and then still do Beast and do the same line that we did before. Now, what setup would I end on IP against? That's the question. What setup would I end on IP against? So, IP is very, very, very important to end on against Utopia. Okay, so almost you would end the board like this, like against Utopia, except instead of the Resh, you would want El Shaddoll. And remember, as I said before, we could substitute, we can get to that Resh Shaddoll incarnation, we can get to that El Shaddoll fusion by sending that instead of core. But then again, you wouldn't end on core, but that's still fine because you can still use Schism to do what you want to do anyway, assuming they don't open up Cosmic. So in this case, you would have the IP setup alongside your Schism, your, if we didn't have, let's say, we didn't send core, so we would have El Shaddoll and then core in that case. That's generally what you want to end on, primarily, against them. You can end on Resh as well. You can. Resh can substitute for core, but most of the time I say that doesn't really come up too much because most of the time you'll be banishing Resh because you don't have the right hand to do it. But if you have the right hand to do it, then just supplement the core for the Resh and then get the El Shaddoll. If you have El Shaddoll and you're able to start combo, you can. Okay, now I know what I said is confusing. There is going to be above different text bars, different helping hints. Once this is edited out, so you would understand a little bit more in depth, so that way you don't have to get a little bit confused up. But I'm gonna go over this one more time, so that way it clarifies. So, if I had that same hand, what would I do against something like? Utopia. So against Utopia, I would have said El Shaddoll fusion there, and then I would have added back Resh with that combo because I was able to go Hound to summon Beast, link off into IP, add back Resh, then add back the El Shaddoll instead of the other thing that I would get back, and then add back Schism. So I would end on El Shaddoll, Resh, and Schism, and then be able to make my, and you may say, am I using El Shaddoll to make Winda? No, you're not. You're using El Shaddoll once you clear their body to make Construct. So, once you make your Underworld Goddess, which you'll use your core and your Resh to do, that will be, not your core, you will use your Schism and your Resh, to do, then you will be able to make your Underworld Goddess of the Closed Realm, and then after you make your Goddess, then you are able to use the, obviously your Goddess, plus any Shaddoll that happens to be in your hand. Use the El Shaddoll fusion, summon your Construct in defense, so that way they're not killing you. Remember, Schism sends off one of their Utopias, your Goddess will send off another one of their Utopias, and then you can survive Construct in defense and gain back a ton of follow-up as well. And let me also be clear that Resh is also a disruption in that matchup, because Resh can send your Genius, and then you can turn off their ability to activate Utopia Ray. Remember, you're not negating the effect, you're preventing the effect from activating. So Leo Ray cannot be stopping that. So be very aware of that point. Now, going over one more thing, and that is the next matchup I want to clear, which is the Despia matchup, where you would make this board. Despia matchup is all about control, and it's all about flotations when possible. So if you have Droplet in hand, or you're running DD Crow, you would definitely set Droplet to deal with Despia, because Droplet can stop the first Dark Lord, and if you stop the first Dark Lord, it's very hard for them to win. And if they're only if they're not on the Striker package, and they just make the first Dark Lord, then and you negate it, it's pretty much really downhill from them from there, because that's their main piece of removal. The only other real removal that they have outside of the first Dark Lord is the ability to run, whatchamacallit, is the ability for Ding to really come in, or Unicorn, and that's really the only other removal that they have. So once you're able to deal with that, it's very hard for them to win most of the time, because they just can't break your board, and you have too much follow-up going for you. Also, if you don't open up drop on that matchup, you want to Schism off their first Dark Lord, because if you're able to do that, then it's really, really annoying for them, because then they're gonna have a little bit harder of a time to OTK. Hopefully in that matchup you can make a Winda with a Schism also in play. If you're able to do both, remember Winda cannot be destroyed by card effects, and Schism can also send off their first Dark Lord. So if you're able to make Winda plus Ab Cologne, it can be annoying. Another thing you can do is if you have Resh early on, the minute they activate their field spell, you can pop it. So that's another thing you can also do. You can summon like a Construct, pop it. If you happen to have an Ab Cologne in the graveyard, you can pop it at that point. So that's what you want to be doing turn 1 against Despia and what was the other matchup? Utopia. Again, kind of the same for Chimera, I feel. I think I would still go IP turn 1 against them because you could be annoying and you can start threatening to get rid of bodies. So Despia, Chimera, and Utopia focused on IP Masquerade. And if you go up against the matchup where you have no idea what the heck it is, then I would go IP anyway. Because then it's the safest and you gain the most advantage. And fusion. So just add whatever X you're missing in the combo. So now, or as we would say in algebra, calculus, whatever, add your missing variable. So in this case, we're going to activate Shaddoll Fusion. Now, to make the Unicorn setup, you want to make Construct in the main monster zone. So that's very important to do, because if you don't understand to do that, you're going to be in deep trouble.
Here's what I'll do. Fusion
Next, we're going to activate Wendy, and we're going to follow up with Construct. Now, again, if you want more advantage, and you don't really care about losing Resh, you can go for Ariel here, and then get to it that way. But again, it's not really needed. You could do more here, so I wouldn't necessarily do that necessarily. So, you know, if and the reason where you would say, oh, in what case would you do that? Well, in the case that I don't have a normal summon, if I don't have a normal summon, that's generally when you need to go for Ariel to do it. But in this case, we really don't have to. We can go for Hedgehog instead, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and send Hound to the graveyard. And then I'm going to summon Hedge out of the deck. If you already have core access, then go for Beast. And then Beast can discard core. And then you gain more hand advantage. So we're going to go ahead and flip. Here we can add Schism. Normal summon the Wendy. Make our Construct Link.
Up here. I link summon a monster. I activate my monster.
Take another Construct.
Feast your eyes on this.
Here I'm going to send core.
I activate my monster's effect. I activate my monster's effect.
I can also add back Resh now. So I'm going to core add back to Shaddoll Fusion. This gives us the most hand advantage here. And then I'm going to go ahead and send off a card in hand to the graveyard. In this case,
come out. I special summon a monster.
Now,
feast your eyes on this.
What I'm going to do here, and it's very important to know this if you're playing Shaddoll, Nightmare Unicorn goes for cost, discards for cost. So if you activate costs in a certain chain link, like if you activate chain link 1 Unicorn, the cost will immediately go first, which is very important because then Shaddoll Construct can add that back. So we're going to discard for cost, and then we're going to activate Construct to add back that same card we discarded if we wanted to. So we're going to add back the Shaddoll Fusion, and then we're going to set 1, 2, 3. So we already have Resh's effect, which can immediately by itself turn on Shaddoll Fusion if we were to get Cosmic Cyclone on Schism. And the way we do that is we go Resh, summon Construct, send Wendy, and then we already have the materials to make a Shaddoll Fusion play live into like a Winda. So even if they were to Cosmic your Schism, you're still kind of protected from it. You can still make Winda through a Cosmic Cyclone. Also, it's just really good to have like this field if you're able to make it. Again, against Speedroid, having Resh isn't mandatory, but it's good to have it if you can have it. If you go up against Speedroid in this situation, why would you do this? Because they don't get a skill. And the same reason you would do this in the Shaddoll mirror as well. Now, if we had Beast, we would have an extra card in the hand because then we could go for core shenanigans and add back core and do things like that. You'd absolutely make this board in the Shaddoll mirror. I see people all the time making Gravity Con, making IP Masquerada. Do not do that because every Shaddoll player will floor you at every moment if you do that. And the way that they do that is that you may say, oh, but when I want to end up more disruption like IP and whatever not. And the answer is absolutely not, because you're going to give them skill and they're going to break your board. So how would they break a board like that? Well, they would set Hell. Hell would banish the IP. So your IP is already done before it even started. And then at that point, you would probably have GravCon with the IP Masquerada on the field. And because GravCon's already there, they're going to Shaddoll Fusion and they're going to gain a ton of advantage after that. If they don't want to use Shaddoll Fusion early on, then they could use El Shaddoll and force out your, and send like a dragon to force out your El Shaddoll or Schism first to force you to make Winda. And then after they do that, then they'll have access to make App Clone and turn off your Winda after that, even if you did that. But most cases, they're just going to use Shaddoll Fusion first, and then Shaddoll Fusion will fuse from the deck. And then at that point, you're going to get nervous and you're going to want to chain your, Schism, and then that's when everything's gonna start to go downhill. Another way that they could do it is they could send Ariel to also force out your Schism as well. So like Ariel is another way that they could force out Schism as well in the mirror, and that's something you really need to pay attention to, which is absolutely why you never ever 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 make that setup turn 1 against Shaddoll. Don't ever do it. Don't make the IP setup. Even if you make IP by itself, they're just going to Shaddoll Fusion immediately and not care about your Masquerada one bit. So keep that in mind. And also, IP can only activate in the main phase, so they can force battle phase really easy, force you to commit to Masquerada and not even have to get rid of it. And then they could just go on and then combo off from there, not even caring regardless. So that's something you need to understand. Also, if you only have a certain amount of targets in the graveyard to make anything viable off of something like a Shaddoll Schism, they can also Ariel banish, force your whole graveyard, and then force you to activate things in the graveyard. So that's something also to keep in mind. Another thing is, keep in mind when to rush. Be very careful. Don't hold it. Don't think about it too much. You really ideally want to rush, I feel, once they've committed Shaddoll Fusion and El Shaddoll. Unless you really feel they're going to make an Nihilus early, don't do it. Because the minute they activate El Shaddoll Fusion after using Shaddoll Fusion, like if they do it later in the combo, then that's when you want to use Resh, because otherwise they'll make a Nihilus and they'll turn off your graveyard. So you really want to activate in response. You don't want to activate in open game state, because then they can chain El Shaddoll from there, make a Nihilus, go into using their Aerial, and then on resolution your Resh will not activate. So be very careful how you sequence things. Another note I really want to point out to a lot of Shaddoll players that I see make this mistake is that a lot of the time when they go up against the Shaddoll mirror, they activate Resh in the draw phase, and then they banish their opponent's graveyard with Ariel then, and that's incorrect. If you're going to do it, you either do it on your turn because you opened up good enough to get to that point, or you do it later on in your turn. You just grind them out that way. Because otherwise you're going to really give them clear way to clear out to your back row. And not only that, you've given them an increased chance to find your Schism, which is never going to end well for you. So make sure you take that into account as well. Now, if you're going second in this situation, what do you do? In this situation, I would immediately threaten a construct, and then after that point, I would attempt to tribute set anything on the field. So if you have like a Beast, or you have like a Hell Shaddoll, whatever the heck it is, a Hell Shaddoll Hollow, then you can tribute set that, and then after that point, you can have access to doing a bunch of different things after that point. So that's very, 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 very effective way of doing that. So that's what I'd highly recommend if you were going second into the Shaddoll mirror. Their Chimera to send Vision Resonator to graveyard to get Crimson Gaia to search out their trap. So they can search out Fiendish Golem for an extra disruption, so just keep that in mind.
It's might. Here I go.
So he's going to reveal the Kotal to put it back to add the Chimera Fusion, sending the Nightmare Magician. Kotal will add Mirror Sword Knight, so that's immediate starter for him, the best starter in the deck. Mirror Sword will summon out the Gazelle. Gazelle will search the Birthament, and now he fuses for the hand rep. Now Chimera will hand rip, Gazelle will activate, Bearfoot will activate, reviving the Kotal, and then Gazelle activates, adding his target to end. And then he gets to add back the Chimera Fusion. Special summon the Nightmare Apprentice, add the Master Tau, and then we'll fuse off again the Master Tau to make another 6. Bearfoot, and then Master Tau reviving the Mirror Sword Knight. Sending the Vision Resonator to get the Golem, as I just spoke about. Dweller. Now he's doing this so I don't get value off the discard. Now, very important here, this is absolutely very important to understand against Chimera, is that if you, or against any deck that makes Dweller, is the way to beat Dweller is to grind them out with Schism, and you can search Schism a lot of the time in combo. And if you want to be in a situation where the meta dictates you to deal with Dweller, then in that case you probably want to run more fusion spells so that way you can search Schism a lot more consistently. Alright, so he does discard the Wendy here. We don't trigger because of the Dweller. But here, like I said before, searching the Schism. And then I'm going to Shaddoll Fusion immediately into Apkalone to force out his negate. Apkalone can negate immediately on summon, so we're going to do that. We can't chain block here, obviously, because he dwellered us. Now, he does have the Veiler. This we did not know, but my plan was to banish it. We didn't. This we can fuse off next turn, but this will force out his revives. So this play, me making the Grabcom, will force him to bring back the Nightmare Magician. I'm just going to set here. So at this point, I'm just going to set. I want to force out his revives, and then we can make Winda to kind of grind out his board here and clear the Grabcom. So he's going to make the Chimera Fusion. Then I'll link it to the Phoenix to try to clear the back row. And at this point, I chain Schism. I want to get him to commit into Phoenix before we use Schism, because we can easily recycle the Phoenix back, especially since his Dweller is done. Since his Dweller is completely done, we can wait for him to link off, and then we can use Schism to get the most value out of it. And then whatever fusion he sends to the graveyard, we can just choose to add back Schism. So that's why I wait. Okay, so he banishes the window, which is completely fine. And you can see he's on low amount of resources, really can't OTK us. He attacks. Now, I aim to banish Apkalone here. Now, I could have banished that for Winda, and that's probably what I should have did to start off. But in this case, I banish Apkalone here, and you might say, well, why, Sean? He's just going to negate him with Mirror Sword Knight. This forces his negate out and gets our grind game going for the future. So this forces the Mirror Sword Knight. Now, another important thing about this matchup is Mirror Sword Knight negates the effect, not the activation. So it cannot negate the damage step. So if they were to attack into a Construct thinking that they can negate with Mirror Sword Knight, they will not be able to do that, because Construct activates in the damage step, and Mirror Sword Knight cannot negate the damage step. So be very important to that. Very careful, because Construct can clear their boards very easily.
My game is only getting up here.
Alright, so now we can normal summon, link it to Construct, activate Construct, fuse it to our Construct, and then at this point we already have our 80 Changer in the grave, so we're going to be able to flip that up, activate to add back Shaddoll Fusion. Now we can fuse from the deck here, but I choose not to, because I want to try to sneak in a Goddess. If I fuse from the deck, he's going to be more apt to want to do it, but if I sneak in a Goddess, then I can stop his revive in the graveyard for his Chimera, because we can negate this. So this is really, really good, and I can hold Shaddoll Fusion.
Here's what I'll do. I activate my monster.
And now we negate one of his revives. We can't negate both, but we can negate one of them. And then Apkalone triggers, and we get to get back our Schism. And then attack. And again, my whole goal here is to just keep on the pressure. He does summon Bearfoot, which gives him a ton of advantage. But also remember that we also get Fiendish Golem's effect to get Winda back. So he's going to immediately start his turn also floodgated under Winda as well.
I summon a monster in attack. I activate a quick play spell. Here we go.
Also, very important, Chimera Fusion only triggers in the battle phase. I mean in the main phase, not battle phase. Only in the main phase, so we cannot fuse in the battle phase. So if they choose to go to battle phase, evaluate the situation immediately. If they cannot lethal you, the best play generally is to let them go to battle phase and then rebuild your advantage the turn after.
My turn is done.
And he sees.
Duel! The Egyptian. From my hand.
Okay. So we make the construct. Construct sends Wendy. So again, what did I search here? I searched Dragon and Chaos to get to El Shaddoll, so I wanted to make sure I had the light. And then again, this is the setup that I talked to you about. So this is the aerial setup. So we're going to make our Gravity Con, the EMZ, and then we're going to banish our Construct to flip aerial to summon back Construct, and then we get another send. So in this case, since I have Schism and El Shaddoll, I'm going to send a Hedgehog to get access to my Wendy, and then immediately make Masquerena.
I activate my monster's effect.
Now I'm going to set 3 back row, and then here, Schism will immediately be able to turn on the ability to make my... Now again, I didn't open up a super ideal hand, so I couldn't get back something like Core, but again, Schism will turn on the ability for me to make like a Construct, and then liven the ability for IP Masquerena. Do not Winda here. I see a lot of players do this. They make Winda in the spot. Do not make Winda in the spot. You will regret it. You will be the saddest person alive. We had the droplet for Tornado Dragon, by the way, so we could have held it for that. Which is another reason, ideally, we would want Core in this matchup, because then Core can bait out Tornado Dragon if he was to do that play. So it goes double.
I use Zexal Service Ascended Sage to
Things will not go as you hoped. Here's what
I do go Unicorn here, so I aim to save the Schism actually instead. I could have went Schism, but I think this is also fine as well.
Are you sure you wanted?
I could have Schism there, which I probably should have did, but this is still fine. Because we know he already went Tornado, so he doesn't have any he doesn't have any extensions beyond that point, so it was completely fine to go Unicorn there because he already went Tornado. Now, very, very important here. This is extremely, extremely important that you must know. Because if you don't know this, you're going to lose the Shaddoll matchup like this. Alright? So, here, when we go into Schism, make sure that you do not click Activate Schism immediately. So you flip it, say no, and then Eagle Claw will not be able to negate Schism. And you may say, well, why? Because Eagle Claw has to negate immediately. So the minute you flip Schism, it will negate Schism, and then you can use Schism's effect. So negate the actual effect to flip up Schism, but not the actual effect to fuse. So don't say yes immediately. Okay, this will deal with the other Utopia. And then if he makes another one, we can make Winda on the field and defend against it. As far as him permanently negating Schism, we really don't care. So he makes Leo Ray, which is fine. We just let him clear because I don't really care. I don't need to make Winda use El Shaddoll here because there's no lethal line. So he does have he does have the Omni, but we don't care about the Omni at all. We're going to flip Hollow here, and we're going to force the negate. So we're going to force out the Omni with Shaddoll Fusion, flip Hollow, and force the negate, one of the two. I don't chain El Shaddoll there because this doesn't target anyway, so it doesn't really pay. Now we're going to go Wendy summon from the deck, App Cologne, force out the Leo Ray. And now at this point, it's just game over. Make another Construct. Dragon, Construct effect. Okay, this is Speedroid. Again, this is going to show you the setup that I was talking about before. Okay. Now, I talked about going first in the Speedroid, but how do you go second into them? This is probably where everyone struggles, and they say, well, I don't know what to do going second. A good rule of thumb is you want to start off with El Shaddoll Fusion. Not El Shaddoll. You want to start off with Shaddoll Fusion first and have El Shaddoll going second. The reason being is if they negate your Shaddoll Fusion, then you can use El Shaddoll, make another fusion monster, link that off, or send core, and then add back Shaddoll Fusion to activate it anyway. Another good rule of thumb is, you might say, what do I set out of the deck? Well, if you don't have a way to get to El Shaddoll and Shaddoll Fusion, Hedgehog. If you do have a way to get to both, set Ariel. Don't set Beast. Set Ariel, because if they bounce back Ariel with something like a duplicate, then you could just reset it because you wouldn't have normal summon. And then just use Ariel's effect to make Goddess at that point. So that could be a way to build your board. So just keep that in mind. Don't immediately link off of the GravCon. I know people say, oh, I make my construct, let me link in the GravCon. Be a little patient. Try to make IP first. Because if you're able to do that, then at that point, you're going to be in a much better situation to do what you want to do. So just keep that in mind.
I activate my monster. I activate my monster's effect. I activate my monster's effect. I activate my trap. I activate my.
Okay, so you can see here, I'm already setting up for my unicorn setup. Now you may say, Sean, why didn't you toss core here? Because if I toss core here, then I doomed to a life of pain, because then I can't get constructs effect on the field. That's why I don't do it. And I probably just realized I could have probably did that. Well, no, I wanted kind of to get 80 in the grave. I guess I could have just used the other construct on the field if I wanted to there, but either way, it's still pretty much accomplishes what I wanted to do anyway. Right, this guy just shotguns it. Alright, I wait for Take Tambor to activate. You don't want to... You want to make sure that they have... we could commit it to Marble Machine, I guess, and still be fine, but... you generally want to have them commit Take Tambor or some kind of special summon before you do it. In this case, I guess him summoning Marble is fine. As long as he's normal summoned, it's okay. So here we're going to make Winda. So we could have technically did it on the normal summon. And he can't do anything else. Alright, I'm going to fast forward past the setup. And you're going to see where I complained to you about the setup that I just told you to never make. Also, if you want to make the Unicorn setup, make sure Construct is not in the EMC. It has to be in the main monster zone. Because you won't be able to make your Shaddoll link. Well, as easily. There is a way to do it, but it would be really bad. So just don't do it. Well, actually, no. There isn't a way to do it because you would have GravCon in the EMC. Yeah, so never do that. Oh, like I said, if you want to make the Unicorn setup, Construct in the main monster zone. Okay. Alright, so you're probably saying, but sure, that's a hell of a field. No, we can break it very easily. So we're going to add El Shaddoll because we already have Shad Fusion. I'm going to immediately force out a dragon, pop a back row. Now, again, keep in mind when I was streaming this climb, it was like 1 a.m. in the morning, so my mind wasn't completely there. So if you see a few ifs and ons and offs, and I'm discussing with you now because I've woken up, that's why. We're going to make out Cologne. So we're going to banish 3. Cologne will negate. He'll have Schism, which is then completely fine. But in that case, I wanted to search Schism rather than Dragon and discard Squamata to get Dragon. Now we can El Shaddoll. Go Wendy. Wendy will summon out of the deck. Schism will set. And then we'll make IP Masquerena just to clear to get back our Schism. Now 80 Changer will flip. And then I make Goddess. And now, because I know he doesn't have Resh, I'm going in for massive damage. So this puts a lot of pressure on him. It makes another construct. That doesn't send because we don't we're unaffected by effects that target. He chains core because he doesn't want to lose to a window. Now he's just burning through resources. Ariel's fine. Wendy will go ahead and summon out just the body on the field. And then he's out resourced. Even if he held Schism, we're still going to 100% out resource him there. And then gain back all of our follow-up next turn. So that's pretty much game over at Red Rover. So yeah, those are the replays I have for you today. Again, I will get a few Despia replays for you, and I will link them onto the YouTube itself, so you can check them out if you want to see more. And yeah, that's my Shaddoll guide. So if you liked it, liked it, please smash that subscribe. Please like the video. It'll help get the video, video promoted throughout YouTube. So that'd be greatly appreciated. And yes, next dueling stream is going to probably be Monday. Today is probably going to be either a day off, and then we're going to do Shadowverse after that throughout the week, and Pokemon Pocket. So make sure you're tuned in for that. And yeah, schedule is coming out today, so I'm going to schedule what days we're doing what and when. So yeah, until next time, it's your boy Shaddoll, signing out. Peace. Bye, YouTube.